friends from South Asia. It's time for another round of chit chat with me, Mishur Rahman. And as you all know, on our show, you get to hear about and meet all the exciting people, happening people from Bangladesh, and you get to learn about what they do in their everyday lives in their respective industries. And today on our show, we have two very special guests who have been key people in organizing the talk of the town, which is the Cricket World Cup opening ceremony specifically that Bangladesh has hosted in the recent times. So let's introduce you to the Executive Director of Asiatic Events, Tahsin Saeed, and the Executive Director of Asiatic JWT, Neville Ferdous. Guys, welcome on our show.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So as we told our friends from South Asia today that we're going to tell them all about the exciting stuff that you do on your everyday work, we're going to hear about Asiatic Events and where the event management industry has progressed over years. And let's just talk about the creative industry before we get into all that. Neville, do you want to talk about how you started as a professional in the creative industry?
Yeah, I started long back, somewhat.
You can't really tell from your appearance.
Yeah, 12 years, and I was a fresh graduate, and I was kind of trying to go abroad to do my PhD, seriously.
Okay.
And one of my friends said, like,
just decided education is not for you, is it?
kind of, but
Intended a triangle.
what happened is very circumstantial, and it happened by chance in a sense. Like the agency that I work for, which is Asiatic, it used to be one of the top agencies, and it still is. And one of my friends said, like, I had some creative penchant since my childhood, and said, like, within the time you're trying to go abroad, why don't you, there's this opening at Asiatic, and why don't you apply? And he actually made my CV and sent it. And they called me for an interview and a written test. I passed them both, and I joined. And unfortunately, in about a year's time, when I was supposed to go abroad, that didn't happen because they wouldn't give me a visa. At that time, getting a US visa was very difficult. And then what I'd say is I like what I do, and I didn't want to do typical corporate work. And, it's a
and you've actually stuck with the same company. I mean, it is a leading agency in Bangladesh.
Whether I'm like a little,
scared of venturing out.
No, I'm not. The problem is, like, if you start your career with an agency like Asiatic, then you don't have many places to go to because you're already one of the best. And plus, my management, they never gave me enough reasons to leave. And
so that's good for you.
Yeah.
How did you start, Tahsin?
Well, I also started long back, as my hair suggests, like almost 10 years back. I started with a multinational company based in Dhaka, and in fact, I worked there for 6 years. After that, I moved to another company for 1 year, and then I joined Asiatic Events as the executive director in 2008. So it has been like 3 years now.
Right.
And Asiatic Events is, as we call it, it's a lot more than an events company, to be honest, because we are a below-the-line marketing communication company, and we carry out marketing communication through engagement, activations, closed-door events, and all that.
For all our marketing.
In short, it's all about providing experience of our brands to our target consumers on behalf of our clients.
Right.
So we work for various clients like Nokia and Pepsi, HSBC, and a lot more.
Right.
So.
And because Asiatic is such an old player in the industry, I guess all the brands were already comfortable working with you in promoting their corporate communication and whatnot, right?
Absolutely.
So I guess more responsibility goes to the events team just because of that. But I guess we'd like to hear about the World Cup opening ceremony from you, which I guess Asiatic Events was a lead agency coordinating the whole thing, and 3 countries from our South Asian region hosted it together, right?
Not really. There was a lead agency, an international agency appointed by ICC, and Asiatic Events was the local partner of that international agency to turn this dream into reality. As I mentioned earlier, that we are primarily a marketing communication agency. But we took active interest to be a part of such a big thing that is happening in our own country, like World Cup opening ceremony. And we tried our best, and eventually, along with the international agency, we got the job from ICC. So it started back in August last year.
Last year.
So it has been a journey of 6 months, a wonderful 6 months, I must say. So, to be honest, ICC opening ceremony is, to my best knowledge, is the first ever global event in the
global
history of our
event,
country.
globally watched. I think 200 million
Correct.
people watch it on TV.
Yeah, yeah.
It's pretty big.
So, there has been regional events like South Asian Games and all that, but Cricket World Cup opening ceremony is, in that sense, is the first ever global event.
Truly
So,
global, yeah.
truly global. So we knew that it's a brilliant opportunity for Bangladesh to showcase the country as a forward-moving, energetic, vibrant, and a country with a lot of potential to the global audience. And we really wanted to be a part of that exercise. So that's the biggest objective we kept in mind, and we designed the show accordingly, along with all other entertainment stuff. And finally, we delivered it on 17th of February.
And it was truly an extravagant event. And as you know, that on Facebook, everybody's status just after the show was like, "I'm proud to be a Bangladeshi" and whatnot.
Yeah.
People were almost like not really believing that you can pull off such a grand event. Is it like that?
It is. To be honest, the expectation was high because the show is great, but also there was a bit of underestimation that Bangladesh, you know, a so-called third world country, can they really host such a big thing and all that. So those were there, but we worked really hard, and our international agency did a fantastic job. We also get into a lot of detail to showcase Bangladesh in the way we really want world to see us. So there we had different types of items. We had our welcome song, which was all about welcoming the world to Bangladesh, which was a performance by all young singers. So that is the young Bangladesh we wanted to showcase to the world. And then there were the legendary singers, the theme song in all 3 languages. We had, most importantly, 3 cultural segments of all 3 host countries, where we were very closely looking after the Bangladesh segment, where we wanted to showcase the heritage, the history, the culture, the rich culture of the nation, and finally the vibrancy and the youthfulness of the nation. So
Who suggested the flying kites that were going around, the electronic kites? That was something really new. That was Chinese, I guess.
No, we had another partner from Singapore.
Okay.
Yeah. And they actually provided those fantastic stuff. So that suggestion initially came from Bangladesh Cricket Board.
Right.
And when we saw the item, we were like, nice, we want this in our show.
Yeah. So they just said, go fly a electronic kite.
I was in the audience and I was wondering, like, how is this thing flying?
Yeah, it was very
It took
colorful.
me some time to understand there are a group of people, young kids, they're actually controlling that with remote
Right,
control.
I watched it on TV. So on TV, they actually showed the people with the remote coming
Oh,
into the
they
stage
showed it,
first,
yeah.
and then all
Okay.
these things are going up. So we could figure it out. So we had that
Yeah,
advantage.
smarter than
Just because of the
But you
television.
were in the stadium, right?
Yeah.
So,
I was in the
so it was, probably difficult for the audience sitting in the stadium to get into all this detail. But
what blew my mind was that, vertical cricket.
The aerial cricket,
Aerial
that was something
cricket,
everybody's talking about. So that's also done by the Chinese, or?
I think that was the
Chinese-
brainchild.
Chinese people can do anything, man.
But it was fabulous, the
Yeah,
graphics and
it
everything.
was I think it was a very innovative idea because at the end it's Cricket World Cup. And of course we want to showcase the 3 host nations. We want to have some musical performance and all that. But at the end it's cricket. So we wanted to have cricket somewhere in the show in a very unique way. And to me, I think nothing can be more unique than what we have experienced in the show.
Absolutely.
So the idea actually came from our international partner, and it was performed by a Chinese team. And we worked on the script for a very long time, and then you had all those interesting twists like audience getting in the field and the police person chasing the audience, and those fun
That
were there.
happens.
But we actually showcased 1 over of a traditional match where it had all the suspense in 1 over, 1 over boundary, 1 boundary, and 1 possible run out, and all those excitement that we see in a match. But we summarized all those excitement in 1 over and just showed it to the audience in the building.
What we always discuss on TV South Asia is how close the cultures across the countries within South Asia are. So it must have been really challenging to actually bring out, differentiate in color, the 3 hosting nations, right? Color, music, it kind of sounds similar.
In a way, it was not a big challenge. I tell you why. Because the theme of the event was celebration beyond boundaries. And the core idea was the love that exists in this part of the world for this game called cricket. We want to showcase that.
Right.
So there is actually a lot of similarity in people living in this part of the world, which are primarily the three host countries, India, Sri Lanka and Bangladesh. So we wanted to celebrate that. But of course, all three countries has their uniqueness in terms of their culture, their music, their outfit and everything, their fashion, everything. So that's what we wanted to showcase in three individual segments, one for India, one for Sri Lanka, and finally the host country for Bangladesh.
I think the differentiation was pretty apparent. Like it looked similar, but
Looks similar, like
one could tell like there are some subtle differences. Like
of course, the Sri Lankan performance was absolutely something that we would not see in Bangladeshi dance performances. But again,
also like Sri Lanka essentially is an island surrounded by ocean, sea all around. So you see the first
the pearl.
In fact, the name of the segment was Pearl of Indian Ocean.
Right.
Yeah.
So you could see the sea that we created with all school-going children of Bangladesh, and then the Lion King ship entered.
Right.
They got out of the ship. They took the center stage. Then they danced, and before that we saw that pearl. The oyster appearing from on the stage.
A beautiful
and
pearl coming out of the oyster. She was a
basically a
brilliant
princess
dancer.
also for the
representing Sri
Indian
Lanka.
part, you see glimpses of Mahabharata. Like first this is archer, right?
Yeah.
So
India was all about the colors of India. So there were like 5 parts of India, the north, east, west, south. And we had representation of the entire India in a 12-minute segment. So all the variety of culture that exists in India, the wide different range of people, but all living together as one nation, as one country. That's the beauty of India. So we wanted to showcase that.
Was it difficult working with agencies from other countries outside Bangladesh?
Not at all.
Were
Not
they-
at all. In fact, at one point in time, it was a madhouse, but it was fun. Like we had people speaking Hindi, people speaking Bengali, people speaking Chinese, translators from in Hindi to Chinese, from English to Chinese, people speaking English.
Right.
So the fun part was all these different nations and also Sri Lankans. We had Sri Lankan dancers in the Sri Lanka segment. So we all worked as a team because
How
otherwise
many
it's not
performers
possible.
were actually there in the cricket stadium from all three countries? How many were there from Bangladesh? You coordinated all the performers.
Bangladesh, if you remember the venue layout, there were primarily 2 parts. One is the center stage,
Right.
and then there's the field. So in the field, whatever you have seen, all are from Bangladesh.
Acha.
Yeah, but in
regardless
center
of which country's
performance it was.
Oh.
Right,
You
right.
mean even
For
in the Sri
Indian part,
Lankan
all
segment,
those-
the people carrying the
all
masks?
Bangladeshi.
All,
Oh, okay.
all.
You
all.
can't really tell the difference. They all look the same.
As I told you,
That's
that
a
we
great
are
part.
similar,
Yeah.
and our kids really worked hard, and they did a fantastic job. So there were like kind of 1,800 kids. We used to call them mass cast. Yeah, so 1,800 mass cast kids. We had 400 adult mass cast who were from Bangladesh Army. So we are very thankful to Bangladesh Army for extending a lot of support. Not only those mass cast, but a lot more. So these 2,200 people were all from Bangladesh in the field. And in center stage, you had singers from Bangladesh, India, Sri Lanka, Canada, Mr. Brian Adams. And also you had dancers from Bangladesh for Bangladesh segment, Sri Lanka from Sri Lanka segment, and India for India segment. So mostly these 3 countries we had performers.
Well, I think it's just a fabulous work that you've pulled off. So, I mean, I don't know when the next such big event is going to take place in Bangladesh. People were saying that after independence, it was a big, really big event that brought the country